Dearest gentle reader, this new fourth season, divided into two parts, presents a clear premise of everything love, in its purest Cinderella form, has to offer. A tale where romance, desire, and of course inevitable gossip move hand in hand, this time following the path of the second Bridgerton brother, Benedict, who finds himself at the center of a story as delicate as it is scandalous. And as with any story worthy of close attention, we will focus especially on the birth of love between Sophie and Benedict. But to arrive at their tale, we must begin at the very beginning. But before we do, who is Sophie? When Sophie was young, she got along well with the household staff and was simply excited about the arrival of her new mother and sisters. Her nurse, Irma, asks her to keep the truth to herself. She must not tell Araminta that her father is Lord Penwood. However, he does tell the truth to his new wife, creating a wall from the very start of the marriage. In Sophie's memories, she speaks with her father once the union has already progressed. She tells him that Araminta is not very kind, and since she will not truly be her mother, Sophie wants to know about her real mother, whom she cannot remember. Her father reassures her, telling her not to worry, that he will always be there to protect her. But this being a Cinderella-style story, we know that promise would not last very long. This brings us to the day her father dies. Araminta informs Sophie that her father did not include her in his will. In that moment, she reveals that Sophie's mother was a maid, a poor woman who did not belong in society and therefore was not entitled to any inheritance. Despite this, Araminta tells Sophie she may remain in the house, but not as a daughter, only as a servant. That is what turns her into a Cinderella, and thus the season begins. At the Bridgerton household, footmen and servants set the grand buffet in motion as the siblings arrive one by one. The newly married Kilmartins arrive in Mayfair with their newborn, as does the red-haired Lord Featherington. Everyone is present, except the second brother, Benedict. Violet immediately orders that her son be found, and he is discovered in bed with more than one woman, making it abundantly clear that his adventurous trio from last season is well behind him. With some semblance of order restored, Benedict steps into Anthony's role in the family business, as Anthony is currently in India. Violet, clearly furious over her son's lovers, worries about the possibility of an unwanted pregnancy, though the idea of marriage is something Benedict has no intention of entertaining. She urges him not to disgrace her or the family, especially since, as always, they will be hosting the ball. The Bridgerton masquerade, however, is of little interest to the Queen, who is far more eager to have Penelope, or rather Lady Whistledown, at her side to sample the season's newest gossip before it goes to print.
Dearest gentle reader.
On the morning of the masquerade, Penelope uncovers fresh secrets, but now finds herself weighed down by moral obligations. She no longer wishes to destroy family reputations for the amusement of the Queen or her readers. As night falls, Benedict slips away once more. Social events hold no appeal for him, and at the first opportunity he retreats to a brothel where he meets Louis, one of his lovers. They agree to share a brief encounter before Benedict finally makes his way to the much-anticipated masquerade. It is then that we meet Sophie as she dons her mask to attend the Bridgerton mansion. She is afraid, for we know she is there neither by invitation nor with permission. The moment she enters the grand ballroom, Sophie is utterly dazzled. Masks, music, and dancing surround her, and best of all, everything is perfectly arranged to help her remain hidden from her stepmother, Cho Chang, here known as Lady Araminta, who is present with her daughters. The one truly enjoying the evening from the start is Violet, accompanied by Lady Danbury's brother Marcus, who, should he ever put his feelings in order, might just begin tending the garden of the Bridgerton matriarch. When the Queen arrives, Penelope is summoned to deliver the gossip of the season. Diamonds no longer interest Her Majesty. What she wants now is a compelling love story, and one that is anything but dull. It is precisely at that moment that Benedict finally makes his appearance at the masquerade, 2 hours late and without fulfilling his role as Eloise's chaperone, as debutantes clearly do not hold his attention. Among them are Araminta's daughters, who, following the deaths of her two husbands, had remained absent from society until now, when her daughters enter the season as debutantes. Their presentation to Violet makes one thing perfectly clear: their interest lies squarely with Benedict. That is precisely what Penelope confides in Eloise. The Queen has her eye on a diamond of the season, but this time she wants it to be a man, and they both know that choosing Benedict would invite nothing but scandal and excess, not to mention Violet's inevitable fury. Another rumor that seems destined to remain whispered behind closed doors is the Kilmartin marriage. Francesca and John have just returned from Scotland, and it is clear that Michaela is now part of that equation. The situation has divided the fandom, as Michael was Francesca's original love interest, and his transformation into a woman has sparked sharply divided opinions. Though Francesca and John are making every effort to ensure their marriage succeeds, going on double dates with Colin and Penelope, one thing deeply unsettles Francesca: she has not yet become pregnant. John reassures her that they simply have not been trying for long, and explains that conception can only occur upon reaching climax, even wondering aloud whether Francesca ever reaches that point. It quickly becomes evident that she does not. Those who do reach such a conclusion, quite literally in a carriage, are Penelope and Colin, the couple whose season felt unfinished, as more attention was given to other relationships than to theirs. The same pattern repeats in this new season. They appear only briefly, almost always alongside the Kilmartins. Francesca seems to envy Penelope and confesses that she has never experienced climax herself. Although the two later discuss what an orgasm entails, Francesca remains convinced she has never truly felt such pleasure. Returning to the central story, Benedict finally notices Sophie. She stands apart, quietly admiring the chandelier. When she senses a man approaching, Benedict steps in and insists on inviting her to dance. He asks her name, but since they are masked, Sophie follows proper protocol and refuses to give it, though she accepts the invitation. Sophie immediately clarifies that she is not seeking a husband and that she does not know how to dance. Benedict assumes she is pretending and decides to play along. Just then, Sophie spots her stepmother approaching and agrees to dance in secret. As the Queen's attention turns toward Benedict, every debutante suddenly appears interested in him, a development that promises fierce competition among the mothers and plenty of gossip to sustain the season. Lady Danbury tells Violet that it may be time to step away from society and embrace a quieter life. Though she values their friendship, she believes the moment has come to move on. Outside, Sophie and Benedict make their way to the gazebo. Benedict quickly realizes that she is nothing like the other debutantes. Sophie admits she knows all the young women are vying for his attention, but insists that she only wishes to enjoy herself and often feels out of place at such events. Benedict continues to flirt, assuring her he will not disclose her intentions to his mother. It is then that Sophie realizes he is a Bridgerton, and from that moment on, she becomes far more guarded, revealing nothing about her life. Their playful exchange continues as they give in to the dance, creating an intimate, romantic, and delicate moment. Benedict still believes she is pretending, though he never says it aloud. He praises her every movement, holding the moment as something meant only for the two of them. Sophie tells him they cannot meet again. Benedict kisses her cheek and slips off her glove, intensifying the moment until the chime of midnight rings out, signaling that masks must be removed. Knowing she cannot allow that to happen, Sophie bids him farewell with one last kiss and flees before she can be discovered. In her escape, she collides with Araminta, who fortunately fails to recognize her, as do the rest of the guests. When Sophie returns home, she resumes her true position, the one she has been forced to occupy since her father's death, that of a servant in her own house. As in every Cinderella tale, Sophie tells her stepmother that she has merely been waiting for their return, pretending she spent a dull evening at home. Her stepsister Rosamond remarks that Benedict seemed interested in her, though Sophie knows the truth. Among all the eligible men of the season, Benedict shows no interest in marriage, a fact that may soon become a challenge for the Queen. He cannot stop thinking about Sophie, a woman he knows nothing about. Benedict tells Violet that he found the party enjoyable this time and that he now appreciates every debutante. What he does not realize is that Lady Whistledown must win her wager with the Queen to prove that the second Bridgerton son will be no diamond at all. For, as with every love story steeped in secrets, Sophie and Benedict's is not one destined for swift resolution. Of course, Benedict cannot forget what he felt with Sophie. Night falls, and all he can do is try to recall the fleeting glimpse of her face he managed to see. Meanwhile, Sophie discards her garments. She cannot leave behind any trace that she secretly attended the Bridgerton masquerade. This helps us understand how Sophie managed to escape her home on the night of the masquerade. It was all thanks to Rosamond, who had misplaced her mask. Both she and Araminta accuse Sophie of having hidden it. Posey tries to defend her, revealing herself to be the kindest of the sisters, But Araminta behaves exactly like the stepmother. She is concerned only with her daughter's interests and well-being. She puts Sophie in her place and forces her to apologize for something she did not do. Back in the kitchen, Sophie tells Alfie and her nurse that she does not care for balls and that they only ever lead to trouble. Both insist that she should take her place as a lady and attend the event. In their haste, they choose one of the family's old dresses, though not the slippers, since those belong to Araminta. Alfie urges her to wear them anyway, and to be careful not to be seen, something she nearly fails at when she almost runs into Araminta herself. The morning after the party, Benedict continues tending to family obligations, though in truth he spends his time sketching the masked face of Sophie. She, meanwhile, must deal with Araminta, who has already noticed the dirt on the slippers she supposedly never wore. As punishment, Sophie is ordered to clean all of Araminta's shoes, as well as Rosamond's. From the moment Araminta discovers that Sophie is her husband's daughter, she sees her only as an obstacle. And so, when Lord Penwood dies, Sophie is left completely unprotected, reduced to scrubbing shoes. As Irma and Alfie talk about the party, Sophie confesses that she met Benedict, though she makes it clear she cannot say more. Nothing beyond what happened in the gazebo will ever come of it. Meanwhile, Benedict reunites with Violet and Eloise, offering to act as his sister's chaperone now that she has been declared the seasoned spinster. As they walk, he speaks of the young woman he met at the ball and expresses his desire to thank her. They turn to Penelope, hoping that she, as Lady Whistledown, might help identify her. Benedict knows only that the young woman was raised in England and asks Penelope to publish a notice about returning the glove. Yet Benedict's reputation could easily compromise any young lady who admitted to having been alone with a man like him. Penelope sets her quill in motion, writing subtly about England's Cinderella. She mentions only that Benedict is willing to attend more balls to mingle with debutantes, emphasizing that he is now a reformed libertine in search of a wife, a notion both Violet and Araminta happily celebrate. Alfie suggests to Sophie that the announcement might be meant for her, but Sophie doubts it. In the gardens, as Eloise and Benedict stroll near the debutantes, Benedict leaves Eloise to fend off her suitors and approaches the young women himself. No matter how closely he observes them, however, he cannot identify Sophie's perfect lips. That same evening, he attends yet another ball, studying the lips of every guest but finds nothing. The next morning, he resumes his search, and so it continues, at every event with every opportunity, always without success. Eloise watches him and senses that he is on the verge of giving up. Lady Whistledown publishes a new notice, pointing out that Benedict has failed to find what he seeks among any of the debutantes, including Rosamond, who begins to believe she stands no chance with a Bridgerton. For Sophie has stirred something in Benedict, driving him to draw her again and again so he will not forget her. This is discovered by his mother, who tells him she has already spoken with Penelope and knows the truth. Benedict assures her that he did not tarnish the young woman's honor, they merely spoke. He does not know her name and no longer remembers her voice. All he has is the glove. Violet tells him she recognizes it. It belonged to the late Penwood matriarch, as the family crest was once embroidered inside their gloves. Benedict replies that he knows the Penwood daughters, but neither is the woman he is searching for. Sophie, like Benedict, cannot stop thinking of him, especially when she looks at the other gloves she kept. As time passes, Posey tells Sophie that she has a suitor. The moment Sophie hears Benedict's voice, she grows nervous. Throughout the afternoon, she watches as her stepsister is courted by him, mourning from afar that she knew him only for a fleeting moment. As Enchanted by Taylor Swift plays, a song about a brief, magical love, Alfie urges Sophie to be brave and tell the truth. Sophie refuses and returns to cleaning shoes. She cries out, losing her breath, but there is nothing she can do. This is her life, and all she has left are the memory of that night and the slippers. Benedict tries to learn how Posey was dressed, but this only leads Araminta to think of the young woman he collided with that night. Benedict presses her, asking whether they have any relatives staying with them, any young woman who might have attended the ball, but Araminta firmly assures him there is no one else. When Araminta sees Benedict leave and examine the family glove, everything suddenly falls into place. With that realization, she orders Sophie to try on the silver slippers. When they fit her perfectly, Araminta tells her she knows about the dress hidden beneath the mattress and that she was the one with Benedict Bridgerton. Sophie protests that the house is hers as well, but Araminta coldly reminds her that it is not, that she was only ever meant to be given protection. They argue. Sophie demands the truth about why Araminta did not throw her out after her father's death. In response, Araminta orders her to leave and warns her that she will never work in Mayfair again. Terrified, Sophie packs her few belongings and takes the glove with her. As she says goodbye to the servants, her only true family, she is given some money to afford a boarding house for a couple of days. Even Posey offers her an item she might sell to survive. Alone and defenseless in the street, Sophie stops. She examines Posey's gift and recognizes the embellishments from the slippers, but having been dismissed, she can no longer return. Meanwhile, Benedict grows increasingly desperate to find his masked lady. Another storyline unfolds in parallel, the relationship between Lady Danbury and the Queen. Days earlier, during the masquerade, Danbury had expressed her desire to retire to the countryside and bring the season to an end. The following morning, as they play chess, she tries to say it again, but the Queen refuses to listen. No more words are exchanged, and the distance between them grows, though it is the Queen who suffers most. In a gesture of affection, Danbury apologizes for having hurt her, reminding her that she is her friend, not her subject. The Queen demands an explanation and insists that Danbury cannot leave her, that she belongs to her. Danbury replies that if she is only a subject, then she has nothing to lose by leaving. As she is about to go, the Queen breaks down, apologizes, and begs her not to abandon her, confessing that when the king dies, she will have no one left. Later, Sophie attempts to sell the charms from the slippers, only to discover they are mere costume pieces. Unwilling to part with her necklace, she uses the little money she manages to gather to leave Mayfair by carriage. That night, Benedict speaks with Eloise about the young woman he cannot find. He believes his reputation as a libertine is the reason she hides from him. With no reason left to continue such an obsessive search, he returns to the brothels, this time to a distant one on the Cavender estate, still thinking of Sophie. Drowned in alcohol, Benedict seems out of place. He has no interest in meeting anyone. As he rests, he sees Sophie being confronted by a group of drunken men who try to take advantage of her, prompting him to step in and face them. Benedict helps Sophie to her feet. She calls him by name, immediately capturing his attention. He follows her, and Sophie explains that she is leaving as she needs to find new work. Benedict offers to help her secure employment in London, somewhere safe, promising he will not disrespect her or cause her harm. And so, as they walk and he helps her into the carriage, Benedict recalls that familiar touch. During the night, on the way to Mayfair, Sophie finally reveals her name, though she remains reserved. Benedict tries to make conversation, but she offers little more than a remark about the coming rain, which soon begins to fall. Benedict suggests going to his country house. Upon arrival, he explains that the staff usually tends the property, but due to the storm they may have left, which is why no one answers the door. Sophie, having spent most of her life as a servant, knows a few tricks and manages to get inside, lighting the fireplace to warm the house. Benedict offers her the guest room and allows her to wear clothes belonging to his sisters. Once he leaves her alone, he checks his wound, which is clearly deep, and later in the night he cries out in pain. Sophie rushes to help and notices the infection has begun to spread and that he has a fever. Desperate, she does everything she can to care for him. In his delirium, Benedict asks her to kiss him. By morning, all of Mayfair knows that the Penwood household has lost a servant, an absence so great it requires 4 women to replace her, with a generous sum offered to maids from respectable families. This sparks a competition among maids throughout Mayfair. With such an offer, Violet fears losing her head maid, but it is Portia who truly has reason to worry, as Varley has received an offer not only with better pay, but with far better conditions. Meanwhile, Benedict instructs his staff to treat Sophie with respect, explaining that he rescued her from attackers. They share breakfast together, and Benedict reminds her that as a guest, she is not required to serve him or tend to anything. This gives Sophie time to visit the garden and attempt to improve it, though in pulling up a weed, she ends up dirtying herself, all under Benedict's watchful gaze. To pass the time, Sophie wanders into the library. Benedict is surprised to find her reading, and she lies, saying that the family she once worked for allowed her to take lessons alongside their daughters. Benedict tells her that now that he has taken charge of the family affairs, he has secured a new position for her. Sophie thanks him and allows herself a bit more freedom, showing interest in Benedict's passions, among them his love of art. She makes it clear she does not wish to speak about her past and selects a book in French, once again surprising him by demonstrating her command of the language. As he watches her lips, Benedict continues to believe she is his masked lady. They seem on the verge of a kiss, but they are interrupted. Sophie tries to keep herself busy by cleaning the kitchen, but as a guest she is not allowed to do anything at all, not even go to the nearby village to look for work. Benedict, just as bored as Sophie, suggests going out into the countryside to pass the time and fly a kite. As they spend more time together, their feelings deepen, inevitably leading them to kiss, carried away by everything they have felt since they first met. Both regret it immediately. Later, Benedict apologizes for his indiscretion, aware that such an act could tarnish Sophie's honor, since she does not belong to a noble family and cannot aspire to marriage with him. Aware of her position, Sophie returns to wearing her modest clothes, takes her mother's necklace with her, and leaves the country house accompanied by Benedict. She looks back, knowing that only for a brief moment did she experience the freedom of not serving anyone, a place where she was respected simply for being herself. Upon arriving in Mayfair, Benedict informs her that her new position will be at the Bridgerton house. Sophie refuses, but Benedict explains that she has been barred from every other household and that she will not be working for him but for his mother. Violet hesitates to hire her because of the rumors, but Benedict insists she stay and assigns her to care for Eloise and Hyacinth, revealing the respect that defines the Bridgerton household. Benedict also confesses to Violet that he continues his search for his masked lady. Sophie finds her place among the young Bridgertons and especially bonds with Eloise over their shared love of books. Francesca and Violet are the only ones who notice how unusual it is for a maid to be so well educated. Violet attempts to learn more about Sophie's life, but Sophie refuses to share details, saying only that her parents died long ago. Sensing her innate dignity, Violet asks her to remain as a lady's maid to her daughters. Yet the tension between Benedict and Sophie continues to grow. They often cross paths in the house, both trying to keep their distance to avoid temptation. Sophie sets boundaries that Benedict does not always wish to respect, leading her, late at night, to surrender privately to an intimate moment, imagining him. The next morning, Violet receives Hollis, but once again, Benedict does not see his masked lady in her. Hollis also proves dismissive. The tension rises when Sophie accidentally burns Benedict with tea. He assures her he is not upset, but the difference in their positions makes it clear there is nothing they can do for one another. As this marks the final episode of the first part of the season, several subplots unfold. One follows Francesca, who attempts to reach pleasure with John, only for the moment to fail. They try again, with Francesca planning to be more spontaneous, but it still does not go as she hopes, as John realizes she is pretending. They conclude that they have time. They are newly married after all and can try again later. Later, they host a gathering at their Mayfair home. Everything seems to be going well until Michaela arrives, the woman who takes Francesca's breath away, whose mere presence makes her impact unmistakably clear. Violet also makes an appearance with the ever-charming Marcus, her garden finally being tended at last, though that is a story that will unfold in the second half of the season. In parallel, we see Benedict drawing Sophie's face. With the servants given the night off and Violet flourishing once more in her personal life, Sophie, without money to join her fellow servants at the tavern, returns to the house where she encounters Benedict. In a moment of pure impulse, they give in to their feelings and share a passionate kiss. Everything seems to progress naturally, until Benedict makes a request that changes the course of everything.
Be my mistress.
And so, the first half of this fourth season comes to a close, one that gave us far more development of Sophie and Benedict's storyline than we ever saw in its time with Colin and Penelope. In addition, Araminta takes up residence directly across from the Bridgerton house, where we discover that Varley now works in her service. A season that will continue through February 26th. But tell me, what did you think of this return?